good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Welcome to another scene from the living world of darkness, Rage Across New York. And I'm going to just have the wisdom to preface this scene with the fact that this is probably going to be a Black Dog scene. I can't know these things for sure, but I've got the sneaky suspicion. So previous to this scene, 10 Point got a air quote brilliant idea, or at least, a seemingly reasonable idea. It seemed like a good idea at the time. And as a result, has run into a pack of black spiral dancers while in the company of a number of the Fiannakin, both from Sept and from the city. And now that those kin have been safely taken home by Haraya and her... Oh, fuck it. Haraya. Yeah. Now comes that lovely point wherein the kin have been seen to, they've been reassured, they've been taken care of properly. And well, now it's just the three Guru probably going to park Aiden's car back where it belongs, and oh boy, 10 Point is very likely in the back seat, staring at her hands very, very quietly and being very still, perhaps their vision's based on movement.
So yeah, Aiden parks up his car, gets out, takes a long sigh, scratches his head, gets out of the car, opens the door for attention. Come on, up we go.
And 10 Point goes ahead and issues herself promptly and obediently out of the fucking car.
Right, we're gonna go back to the cabin. Looks at Dallas and 10 Point. I'm gonna get a drink, and then you're going to explain to me what the fuck you were doing out there.
Yes, Raya.
Nods once. Anyone got any issues with that?
Huh? What? Dallas is currently picking her teeth.
Just follow me. He just takes a weary sigh as he's walking, ahead of you two as he's walking, basically, smoking a cigarette.
10 Point resumes the spot with which she is most familiar, which is right at heel, which means about a step behind and a step to the side.
So I'm assuming they get to Seeker's cabin. Aiden walks in, grabs a 6-pack of beer, comes out to the porch, sits down, sets it down. You hear the crack of the first can open, basically.
Yep, and 10 Point will find herself a nice seat right here on the floor.
So, hands a beer to Dallas.
Dallas takes it, sits back on a chair.
Why don't you explain to me now, 10 Point, what chiminage you were doing that required you to involve yourself with a black spiral dancer?
That was not part of the chiminage, Raya. But the chiminage does require that I go into the city, and it is a chiminage that is difficult for me, and thus is much easier if I go ahead of time to find the spots that I should target the next time I go out.
What are you attempting to do?
She gestures up kind of vaguely towards the roof of the cabin. There's maybe a pigeon or two like sleeping in the gutter, but nothing spectacular to lure inside. You've seen in the Umbra, Raya. We have, in effect, our own wards. The pigeons linger around the cabin, around our home. They linger sometimes around us, and they report to me if any spirits or guru show overmuch interest in us or in our home, or come snooping, or listening, or watching. I figured that when things went bad the first time around, with such a capable theurge in their pack, that it would be wise to be prepared in case things went very sour. So I have a standing chiminage that I must pay monthly.
Right. Okay, so what possessed you then to break from your sudden chimneys to go see, well, not Alana?
I thought, Raya, that I was going into the city regardless. And I know that there are kin here that have lost family and that have other family within the city, and that they may have had trouble contacting that family. And as well, that they might like a chance to do something to the benefit of the ones they lost. And so I offered to go with them to chaperone so that they could get in touch with their family out in the city. And in exchange, they went along with the illusion that I was one of them, because I imagined that so large a group moving through the city would sooner or later attract the attention of the pack that was hunting there.
And why didn't you inform us of this happening?
And she purses her lips for a moment. You would have stopped me, Raya.
Yes, I would have.
Ooh.
Well, I mightn't have.
Which
It's a
dice
good
roll you
plan.
guys in?
I have no idea.
Oh, I have not set up, but I can. I'll do it right now.
Which one? Werewolf?
Yes.
Yeah, Werewolf looks clear.
Because old Dallas needs to roll something. Because goddamn it, 10 point, you made Dallas care. I'm gonna spend the willpower point. She's okay.
True.
She's upset.
I assume there's still a visible reaction.
Mm-hmm.
Aiden doesn't see shit. He's like, oh yeah, no, that's fine, whatever.
So yeah,
it's not a peony.
Dallas's
kind of-
bottle like creaks a little bit as she squeezes it.
she kind of flinches and continues. And while I knew that you would have stopped me, Raya, we know very, very little about our enemy. We have seen only one of them in close quarters, and we don't know what we're up against. And with 5 of them who have made our territory their home, I had thought that with me there, in a public place, they could only take so much action, and I would have a chance to learn more about our enemy.
It's not a bad plan. It's just better if we were prepared. Now imagine what would have happened if we were ready.
I had thought briefly about having you near and at the ready, Raya, but I fear that if you had been, especially with more rage, especially with more pure breed, especially mixed pure breed, they might have taken alert, or worse yet, they might have descended on you rather than taking a passive interest in us.
I could have had the entire Guardian line here waiting at some point, waiting for their car to pull out and we strike. We could have had them in one fell swoop.
Ryo, they've eluded us so far. I thought that surely they would notice if there were more of us and they wouldn't have come out. She was cautious, Raya. She came sniffing, looking, but very cautious.
Mm-hmm. Did you get an idea of her auspice?
She tried to do something, It didn't work, but she tried. I had thought before that in wearing someone's face, perhaps she was the Ragabash. It seems to make more sense to me that a Ragabash should be able to do such a thing, have gifts of that like, being, pardon my wording, right, but deceitful.
Just nod, thinking.
But after seeing another wearing a face that didn't belong to them, I'm not so sure. She still might have been Raya. Especially if she is the one that they send in first. If she is the one that they send to walk among kin and among people. The less of Luna's blessing, the more she'll meld into the crowd. What I thought was strangest was the things that she didn't know. And I've found it jarring that her accent was off. It wasn't unpleasant per se, but it was not real. But she believed, for example, that the establishment was owned by kin. And from what I understand, it once was, but it has since been sold into other hands. There's still kin that work there. She also, I think, had no idea where any of us stay, because I suggested that Balian lives separately from the Sept. Not in so many words, but all the same, I suggested it. And she seemed to believe it. She didn't fight the idea that I would want to go one way and the rest go another. If I was going to where Balian lived. I wasn't truly alarmed until she suggested that the rest of her pack come to guide the kin home. And that she knew Saoirse by name and is a member of Alana's pack.
Yeah. Did anyone know the rest of us? Me or Banshee?
They didn't mention Uriah.
Banshee?
No. No one else.
It's nods, actually seeming... Tension seems to just drop from the shoulders slightly, you know?
I would not have mentioned Balian at all if we hadn't already known that they learned his name.
That is not something I'm angry over. It was sound strategy. Did they mention her? Clicks his fingers at Dallas.
No.
Good. And that means we're less on the firing line. However, they do know our pack. How do they know that?
I don't know, Raya. They didn't seem to know who I was.
My guess is probably the torture from the kin.
If he knew Balian's name, perhaps he knew the name of the pack. And
Perhaps.
while they know that Balian is a Silver Fang, they don't seem to know much else. Or if they did, she didn't. No, I feel sure that she didn't know much else because she was using the things that she did know to try to make it convincing, to try to make it sound reasonable that she was from the Sept and that we should go with her for our own safety. It seems strange, though, to wear the face of someone who is on the Sept and who dresses and acts and speaks so differently, and to expect it to work. And she'll share again, fleetingly through the pack link, little things that tweaked her. Like, he already saw essentially what she looked like, that the hair was wrong, the clothes were wrong, she had tattoos, but it was still Alana's face. But it'll be like brief little motions that she does, kind of like a weird little montage of gestures, of tones, all manner of things that are not even remotely like Alana. And she'll feed that through briefly and then kind of sit back quietly.
Maybe he'll kind of muse, leaning back on the chair, taking a sip. Maybe these spirals treat their kin very differently to us.
Perhaps, Raya, but they seem to understand how the nation treats its kin. She, in fact, kind of made mention of it.
Maybe she's one. Maybe she's a fallen.
I would think so, Raya. I don't think if she was born into it, she would have feigned it so well.
Very, very important question. Was she speaking Gaelic?
No.
Did she try?
No. She said something about keywords, but she did not say what they were.
They're all in Gaelic, because I've been the one teaching the kinfolk each particular phrase in Gaelic. If they meet a Fianna there, he will rely on it in Gaelic, or they relate to each other in Gaelic. That's how you know it's us.
She, I think, was trying to tease it out of us then, Raya, because she mentioned a keyword but did not offer it. I think that she was hoping that the kin would speak it for her, would supply it, and then she would have had it in the future.
Just nod. So there's something else then. What else? Anything else?
And she mulls over the exchange. It's not... Nothing is popping to mind, Raya, besides that my tactic worked. I knew that without pure breed, without a stronger bloodline, I would never be able to attract their attention. But with so many kin around me, speaking to me, talking about home, and with so many of them unconsciously deferring to me because they knew I was Guru, she came to assume that while I may not have had a pure bloodline, perhaps I was taken by a Guru of standing, as it's the only way to explain that kind of deference among kin. They know enough, at least, to key into such things.
Yeah. No, it's good info you got. It's a start. Means we can start playing by their rules now. No, I was a bit... You say very lightly as he's, tugging on that familiar shillelagh. I was more frustrated that you would lie, rather than inform us of what you're doing. However, foolish as it was, the boldness of it paid off to our advantage, as we've just been given a golden opportunity. So, looks over at Dallas. I would say these things cancel each other out, wouldn't you?
Dallas is just sipping her beer like Kermit the Frog sips Lipton tea. She doesn't want to comment on it because she's still pissed for different reasons.
However, it was very reckless and it could have gone very wrong, and I would have lost a packmate and kin. And the sept might have been vulnerable if you had been taken in.
I never would have allowed them to touch the kin.
You're
And
still a guru who knows the ins and outs of the Septon, and more importantly, a Theurge. And a Metis.
I know how to bite off my tongue, Raya.
Tongues grow back. 10 point.
Not if you bleed out.
Just muses to himself, but he doesn't reveal it in front of Dallas. But he has that look like a few hours ago you were crying about dying, this type of like stare.
Raya, I still lied by omission.
You did. You did. However, you forget what auspice you're speaking to.
And it would have been your place to do it, but not mine.
True. Nods again. So, Dallas, what do we do with liars then?
She's going to stand up. She'll look over at Aiden. Do I have your permission?
Of course. But nothing that will sufficiently break her. After all, she did give us a fine lead.
She's going to walk over to 10 point.
You can tell 10 point is extremely tense. Not in dread, but that very familiar, just kind of brace to take a hit. Even kneeling.
Kneeling?
Yeah,
Like
probably.
on the ground?
Yep. All the way down, sitting on her heels.
Dallas is going to reach back. And do a thing. She is going to pick up one of the chairs and throw it as hard as she can. And then bear down on 10 point using strength and intimidation. The -1 difficulty. Well, damn.
Maybe it's because she expected it.
Maybe. But Dallas just bears down on 10 point. Don't you ever fucking put yourself in an unadvantageous position like that again. There's no reason you couldn't have said to us, to anyone. She would growl. And I'll roll her willpower to see if she actually does want to hit you or not, because she leaves it be.
For what it's worth, getting hit by a chair has a pretty, regardless of.
Oh, she didn't throw the chair at 10 point. She just hurled it like across the way.
It's still gonna fucking do the job of doing her a frighten, at least to some degree, because shit just got flung by an Arun. And while she expects to get pinned and yelled at and probably smacked around some, there's still some measure of blatant cowering, essentially. She expects worse. It's obvious.
Yeah. And I'm going to roll her manipulation subterfuge. So that way it comes off that she is angry at the fact that she didn't tell them, and not the fact that she put herself at risk. Two successes.
I will make the cursory attempt.
I don't see it.
Defender.
I guess you are, aren't you?
I mean, I assumed you were.
She's the one actively trying to hide herself, not you.
Oh. Well, okay.
So, yeah, I guess 10-point realizes that's not what Dallas is angry about.
And yeah, she continues to cower, and of all the incredibly pathetic things to say, kind of squeaks out while she's being, bared to the floor. I'm sorry, Raya. I had to prove I could.
And that is her punching the ground close to your head, but not actually hitting you.
It may be, but it is one of Aiden's favored tactics, and thus still gets a pretty mighty flinch.
And is that something so she can understand? No successes. Oh yeah.
Yeah, maybe she's just a coward. I'd be willing to give it to you just because you've watched him play this game with her before, honestly.
Oh no, she didn't. That was her like the whole I had to prove myself, not striking a chord with her, and she failed miserably on that.
Oh.
Let's see if Mr. Man gets it. He gets 2.
Yeah. That definitely struck a chord with Dallas.
I will not roll just because she's not really looking right now. After the thump next to her head, she's probably kind of got her arms up and is half shielding her face.
Dallas gets up and walks back or grabs a chair and walks back to the porch, and she sets it that way it's not looking down where 10-point. It's kind of facing away from them. She sits down and she just stares, drinking.
Aiden will slowly get up. Shaley in hand, he clamps over her shoulder, walking over, leaning and looking down at her.
No, she's not moving. She's staying right where she got thrown and has her arms over her head.
Yeah, first thing she see, probably her eyes will see is his boots right where she is, basically. I don't seem as scared as he used to 10-point.
It's not as bad as it used to, Raya.
Right. Well then. Kneels down and lifts her chin with the club.
Oh, she's still scared. But she's not stupid enough to resist the club.
He stares at her for the longest time.
Is he getting down in her face or just staring down?
Kneeling down, basically, so he's level.
You know what? He may be staring for a long time, but she's going to break eye contact very rapidly, especially if he's got that smile on.
Yeah, oh yeah, you see it.
Yep, suddenly this floorboard is great.
I guess I have to work harder than 10-point, will I?
And you just see her jaw kind of tighten and lock.
And he will stand up, and it comes down like a hurricane. That's one.
She's laying on the ground. It's -2.
Oh shit.
That's
That's 3. Oh no. Right. Strength. Clubs +2.
Don't forget, she heals one of these every 3 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be too scared.
Oh no, I'm just trying to count my damage. It was 8. That's 1, 2, 3, 4.
And I probably should roll soak just because it's a thing. Oh, none of it. So, yeah, what's he aiming for, if anything?
Her spine. You know.
Oh god, is he going for her lower back? Or
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
why would you do that? She wasn't... Alright, let's be fair. Things have been a little weird today and the previous days. And while she has braced herself and she's definitely not feeling sure of herself on this, there was that slight doubt. But between the smile and the standing, she thinks that maybe he's just fucking with her. Nope. The shillelagh hits her lower back, hitting across the spine, and right tidy-like across that discolored portion of her lower back. And it'll force her back into an arch, for one, with a really heavy thud. And she lets out just a very sharp, very sudden, almost shocked yelp. And it's not, all that hurt. There's a deep pain in there. He hit right on the button. So it kind of tears its way out of her throat as her body goes into an arch. And as much as it hurt, she very abruptly responds, much as most people would cover their head, by after the initial thrash, twisting onto her back while her breath kind of hisses in and out as she tries to get her voice under control and calm her breathing. Because in the wake of that, yeah, it's fairly quick, fairly heavy, and kind of hissing.
He'll kneel down again. Now I've had enough of people trying to lie to me and do actions that were not condoned and waste my time by attempting to lie at me and then make the trouble all the worse. Now you've done good. So I'm not going to hit you again. You look over.
Yeah. Dallas kind of clears her throat. Yeah. We've already got enough lying medicine this set.
Aww. She's still got her arms up over her head, but it's not exactly shielding her entire face. And while her jaw is again locked tightly in an attempt to keep from letting out more than the initial cry, and there are definitely tears of pain on her cheeks, but that in particular kind of makes her expression drop a bit. Well, not a bit, but notably just kind of drop.
Aiden's going to be very, very naughty and roll something.
Oh, no.
What the fuck did he roll? Because that's like 4 successes.
That's charisma intimidation.
Oh.
as the club goes. I mean, it won't like it just for the fact it kind of skims right by her nose and comes down, stopping. And he'll literally catch her by the throat and lift up, staring at him.
With a roll like that, yeah, she lets out an involuntary kind of squeak and gives. She's normally, in fact, almost proud of being able to kind of lay and take a beating, but when the hand comes for her throat, she actually kind of squirms and makes a cursory attempt to kind of press herself away from it. But between the pain in her back and everything else, it won't be hard to nab her up.
And you should fear me more than you should fear those spirals. Do I make myself clear, 10 Point?
She very hastily, probably with a hand up, grasping at his hand and the other at his wrist, because that is what you do when someone may end up choking the life out of you. She's not trying to pry him off, but she's definitely keeping a hold. She does her best to kind of give herself the leverage, pulling not away, but kind of down to rapidly nod her head.
Say yes, Raya. So I know you're saying it properly. And he growls like you can feel his breath like hit your face as he goes right in. Basically, like when wolves go at each other, basically.
How tight is he holding her throat?
Incredibly.
Well, the grimace that she's got on as she struggles with it is probably very, very similar to the baring of teeth a wolf does, even in submission, even when they're cowing down. And she grasps at the fingers tightly, trying to earn herself just a little respite, just enough to talk. He'll feel he'll easily be able to feel her throat flexing under his fingers. And she will struggle to obediently hiss it out.
And when she does, release. And basically plop, I'm assuming, to the floor.
Oh, yeah.
Good. I hope you learned this lesson. Now, get yourself a drink. You did well. Go and basically pick up the beer. I'll be back in a while. And he will walk off with the beer, basically. Whistling.
And she will seem kind of torn on how to behave. It's been a very topsy-turvy day. And so after some coughing, and of course putting a hand to her throat, and probably just laying there for a good bit while the damage to her lower back mends itself. How long is Dallas sticking around, or is she getting up and walking off with Aiden?
She's not following Aiden.
Well, then she gets to be involuntary witness to the menace just kind of lying there for a good long moment until her breathing can steady, until she can breathe without hurting. And then she'll lever herself up. Seemed kind of puzzled because she was told to get a drink, but he took the drinks. And will finally, after glancing around, and I assume Dallas still isn't looking at her.
Yep.
She'll just kind of scooch herself, first get up into a sit and then kind of just scooch herself over right to the foot of the chair Aiden generally sits in and draw her knees up to her chest and put her arms around them and just stay there. Eventually just kind of ducking her face against her knees. Is there anything else from Dallas? You still with us, Penny?
Yeah, no, after a minute,
Okay.
she finishes off the last drink out of the bottle and she tosses it in the bin out in front of the porch. And as she hops down, to think I got myself all worked up for a liar, she walks off. And the inflection there was definitely more along the lines of to think that I actually cared about a liar.
Mm-hmm. And she kind of opens her mouth to apologize again, but with Dallas promptly taking a step off, thinks better of it, and just kind of closes her mouth, puts her head back down, and sits there and waits. And so with her left to her own, admittedly boring devices on the porch, where she will remain until she's either called off or Aiden returns. Suppose we can say thank you, players, for playing, and watchers for watching, and we'll see you next time on the Living World of Darkness, Rage Across New York.